Hello and welcome. Nice to see you all today. I'm Cody Johnston, moderator of the 325th annual Warmbo Debate, sponsored by Skin Cola. Taste the flesh. Thank you. We have two candidates this evening, incumbent Warmbo and challenging candidate Warmbo. Warmbo? Warmbo.
Mr. Cody?
For the sake of clarity tonight, I will refer to Warmbo as Warmbo and the other Warmbo as Warmbo. We will begin with a question for Warmbo. Warmbo, your opponent, Warmbo, claims that you're not Warmbo enough to be Warmbo. How do you respond?
Are you talking to me?
I don't freaking know, man. What are we even doing? Am I dead? Is this hell?
Nothing is wrong, Mr. Cody. This is all completely normal.
On second thought, this is all completely normal. Moreover, I really want to drink some skin right now. Additionally, I want to talk about the first Republican primary debate, which will also be a completely normal event, just like this one. Is my eye bleeding? All the GOP freaks running for president. We'll be right back with more Warmbos. But first, an entire episode of some more news. And here's some more news. The first Republican primary debate is happening on August 23rd in the horny city of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, home of Pabst Blue Ribbon. Congratulations on that one World's Fair prize. I don't have a World's Fair prize. Do you? Anyway, super depressing stuff. I haven't even started the episode, but I'm already very sad. Deep inside my chest ball. Election seasons are, after all, an ever-lengthening and crushing darkness in which we're only allowed brief gasps for the air in which a better world feels possible. But now we're back in the sad hole. And this year, the RNC is at least shaking things up by allowing full contact oil wrestling. I'm so sorry. That's okay. They changed some debate rules to make them more exclusive. This year, each candidate has to gain donations from 40,000 national contributors and also poll above 1%. But more importantly, they also have to sign a pledge saying that they will support whoever wins the primary. Which brings us to our new old segment, I wonder why. I wonder why. I wonder why they're scared that candidates wouldn't do that. This is me, just sitting here, wondering why. This has been I Wonder Why. Wondering why aside, I actually don't think losing candidates should be required to support the primary winner. And when you think about it, forcing them to is really messed up. It's very clear that the GOP is recovering from something, like a trauma they experienced, a sort of treasonous elephant in the room, kind of. And perhaps related, Sticky Dawn is reportedly sitting out this debate. Probably because of all the crimes, but to be fair and balanced, maybe because of all the other crimes. And honestly, is he really sitting it out? Did I not just mention the metaphorical elephant in the literal room? Will he not still be very much there despite him physically not being there? Also, I don't know, maybe he's gonna burst out of one of the podiums and do a stone cold stunner on Mike Pence, who actually also might not be there. He just qualified a day before we filmed this, which is 2 weeks before the debate. So we reserve the right to update information on screen or, cut in with footage of me on a cell phone to give updates. It's a little hard to tell who will be attending. So we thought we'd just talk about all the freaks that might be there, and not Trump specifically, because come on, you know his entire deal at this point, right? He's the Home Alone 2 guy. Did the McDonald's and the racism and treason. Remember the attempted treason? You remember. So we're going to talk about all the other freaks who are trying to be president, even though, let's face it, they are probably not going to be. This entire pageant is mostly for book deals, future hosting positions, maybe vice president, or maybe a single dinner directed by David Lynch. So this will be fun. Yeah, and totally not weird.
Ahem.
That totally not weird. Okay, who are we starting with? Christie. Absolutely not gonna win. Oh yeah, he's not gonna win. Are we really gonna do a whole segment on him? Okay, I guess. Seems like we could just Move to the next one. He is, after all, the only candidate very directly denouncing everything coming out of Donald Trump's mouth. Spoilers for the other upcoming dipshoots we'll be talking about. Along with not being very likable and also a member of a political party that has no good solutions or opinions, Christie's biggest problem in the primary is that he actually seems to have a single burning ember of self-respect, a final, smoldering warmth in the icy flood of denial. Just hot enough to fuel this lone GOP holdout brave enough to admit that an obvious liar and criminal is, in fact, an obvious liar and criminal.
Like, you don't understand Donald Trump. It's just to show off. He wants to continue to act like he's president. He can't live with the fact that he's not. And so that's why he kept those documents. It seems childish and stupid, and it is.
It's Trump. He's a three-time loser. He ends by saying loser, loser, loser.
Well, listen, the legal theory put forward by his legal team and by the president is an absurdity. And the reason why the Supreme Court didn't take it is because it's an absurd idea to think that any state or any number of states, no matter how good they are, can challenge another state's right to run the election as they see fit. And also, there's no evidence, as I've been saying since election night, show us the evidence. And what's gotten even worse, though, Martha, I think, is the attacks by the president on good, hardworking, decent Republican governors.
Ah, yes, won't somebody think of the governors? So Christie is running on an anti-Trump platform and will, in theory, maybe, possibly, qualify for the primary debates. So it's, theoretically, easy to think of Christie as a reasonable option for the GOP. After all, the man once unironically thanked Obama. He's somewhat known for reaching across the aisle and was once very much liked by Democrats and liberals in his state of New Jersey. It's a blue state, after all, and they voted for him. He's also done stuff that is kind of fun, like getting into loud arguments with randos on the street. But more importantly than the hoot that is, he has a streak of going after corruption within his own ranks. As the state's attorney general, he oversaw the prosecution of 130 elected officials, along with a bunch of other corruption cases, including a Charles Kushner. Last name sounds familiar, like some kind of childhood Slendermanian nightmare, re-emerging in the static of my fear memories. Boy, a lot of old scabs getting picked at in this episode, I now realize. Anyway, he seems cool-ish at first. Locking up Jared Kushner's dad counts for something, even if he later got pardoned by our very good fraud president. But of course, I am now done listing the good stuff, because besides Trump, Chris Christie's biggest nemesis as governor has been, for some reason, the teachers union. Seems a little weird that those are your two biggest enemies. It's like if Iron Man fought Thanos and also a local dog shelter. Christie has had numerous and heated public fights with union officials, and at one point even said that teachers' unions deserve a punch in the face. He seems generally angry at the concept of learning. He once referred to public schools as failure factories that, quote, send children on a no-stop route to prison and to failed dreams, and said that he'd be happy to take as many dollars away from them as possible. Did a school f*** his wife? Like, yeah, there is something to be said about the school-to-prison pipeline, but he's not saying it. That's not what he's saying. And he's not the only Republican who hates teachers' unions, but it's a very weird and funny thing to be this mad at. And it probably has something to do with the teachers' union originally fighting against Christie's original run for governor. Seems like they weren't wrong to do that, considering that he's spent a bizarre amount of time threatening to literally fight them. So that's interesting, how Christie seems really spiteful against people who refuse to support him as a candidate. It's such un-Trumpian behavior from the brave, anti-Trump Christopher Christie. But heck, it's just the one instance. It's not like there's a second example of Chris Christine spitefully sabotaging a public necessity simply because someone didn't support him as a candidate.
Former Republican presidential candidate Chris Christie is facing some new allegations coming out of that so-called Bridgegate scandal. A key witness for the prosecution is now claiming for the first time publicly that Christie was in fact aware of those lane closures that led to a massive traffic jam.
Oh man, we are taking a real walk down memory lane, or rather a crawl down memory lane, because memory lane was purposefully closed down on a high traffic day in a political revenge plot that would result in a terrifying delay in emergency response for regular citizens. Yeah, not so fucking reasonable of a guy when you remember Bridgegate, which, while never legally connected to Christie, led to the indictment of two people working for Christie who plotted to shut down the George Washington Bridge on the first day of school in order to punish the mayor of Fort Lee for not endorsing Christie's re-election. Really petty Jersey shit that, as I already said, put the citizens of Fort Lee in life-threatening danger while the governor reportedly made jokes about the situation in real time. So, yeah, perhaps it's good that Chris Christie isn't going to be president anytime soon or ever. He seems like a real Trump type, if you ask me. You know, an asshole, and an embarrassing one at that. You might think it's good that he's standing up to Trump, but it's not like he didn't also do that back in 2016.
As Trump draws the battle lines, a feud with Governor Chris Christie is heating up. Christie not only picking up an endorsement from an influential New Hampshire newspaper, but the New Jersey governor now strongly refuting Trump's claims that he saw on television Muslims in New Jersey celebrating on 9/11.
Is it appropriate for a presidential candidate to use the word schlonged in that way?
I am not going to respond to everything that comes out of Donald Trump's mouth.
Boy, I don't even remember what that last clip was concerning. Apparently Trump used the word schlonged on the campaign trail, which, in retrospect, might be the funniest thing he ever did. But the point is that Christie really schlonged Trump hard in that first presidential race before coming in 6th in New Hampshire, dropping out and endorsing Trump a few weeks later. Christie was rewarded for his subservience by being booted from Trump's transition team and then getting a bad case of COVID at a Trump event. In other words, it's not hard to imagine the future of this very sad man who is currently being called fat on Truth Social by the big fat most probable winner of the next GOP primary. Christie will no doubt have to fall in line once more, perhaps so Trump can give him a wet willy and then accidentally kill him with a champagne cork. Oh, Chris Corky, because these are spineless GOP politicians after all. And if Donald Trump wants to call your wife ugly or spit on your kids or spit in your mouth while your kids watch, then by God, you best let him. I don't know. In fairness, Christie is very directly calling out other candidates for auditioning to be on Trump's team. So maybe he's done for good this time. Who knows? Good luck with your book deal or whatever plan you have to one day, once again, be able to close a beach to the public and then be photographed going there yourself. This is all, of course, going to be a running theme, the Cirque du Soleil level gymnastics of claiming that they would be a better president than Trump, while making sure not to anger Trump so much that his supporters literally tried to murder them. Watching these weird freaks squirm is probably the only solace we have right now. So, let's enjoy it while we can. Right, Warmbos?
I'll make love to your gravestone.
Jesus! Why does it sound like that?
Sound like what, Mr. Cody?
Impregnate it with my furry seed.
I think I should call someone.
Why don't we break for some ads, Mr. Cody? Why don't we break for some ads, Mr. Cody?
That reminds me, for some reason, we should probably break for ads, right? Then we'll come back and talk more about the many lovable assholes who we don't love that are going to try to be the president if Trump dies. Enjoy the ads and the skin. Delicious, flaky skin. What? What's up, sloppers? You like slopping down food? I sure do, but not all food can be slopped. It's the great tragedy of our time. Luckily, there's AG1. It's a nutritional supplement that delivers vitamins in one sloppable drink. We don't always have time to slop our meals. Lord knows I only slop like half the time. And so I gave AG1 a try because of these ads, and it makes me feel full, like I've slopped an entire meal. It's great when I don't have time for food, and most importantly, you can slop it. Watch me slop it. see? Consider that slopped. In just one scoop of AG1, there's a slop full of vitamins and probiotics and other sloppies designed to aid with gut health and boost energy. It's an easy and quick way to slop your regular vitamins. One time, I tried to slop an entire head of lettuce, and it was a failure. I cried for hours. I wept for my lack of slops, and for the slopless nation we had become. So if you want to take ownership of your health, try AG1 and get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first purchase. Go to drinkag1.com/more news. That's drinkag1.com/more news. Slop it! Slop it up, sloppers! Yeah.
A good day! Did you know that one of the central reasons we wake up in the middle of the night is because of our body temperature? It's right up there with having to pee and nightmares about manatees. But with the pod cover by 8 Sleep, you can finally regulate your temperature as you sleep. That means no more waking up, except for the manatee dreams, which means no more feeling tired in the morning. Again, unless you have nightmares about being killed by a manatee. Can't do much about that. The pod cover works like any other fitted sheet, but with the added bonus of automatically adjusting your body temperature based on your individual needs. It even monitors your sleep and gives you a health report in the morning. What a great way to start your day. They say manatees are peaceful, but what do we really know about them? Has anyone ever even seen inside of a manatee? If they did kill a human, how would we know? It troubles me, and I lay awake often. But what doesn't trouble me anymore is my temperature. That's all taken care of thanks to 8 Sleep. In fact, I've never experienced sleep like this before. So cozy in my cool bed, because I'm a sweater, you see. So go ahead and invest in the rest you deserve with the 8 Sleep pod. Go to 8sleep.com/more news and save $150 on the pod cover by 8 Sleep. That's the best offer you'll find, but you must visit 8sleep.com/more news for $150 off. 8 Sleep currently shipped within the USA, Canada, the UK, select countries in the EU, and Australia. Australia.
And we are back with the Warmbo Debates, brought to you by... It appears to be a drawing of me as a child. It's really accurate, too. Am I screaming? Why do I suddenly remember this moment? Okay, well, Oh, where'd the other one go? Oh, no. Oh, nobody move, okay? Feet off the ground, okay? Tuck your pants into your socks, all right? Is he like crawling around? Is he under my chair? Oh, oh, thank Christ. Dude, where'd you just go? I just want to go home.
You are home.
Hey, you know what? Let's talk about Larry Elder. That seems slightly less disturbing than whatever's going on here, and just as a general label, this is going to be our people you couldn't even try to care about and who might not be at the debate section of the video. Sorry. Maybe they'll get a position in Trump's office if he wins the election before going to jail. And whatever the...
My opponent wants to eat your legs, but Warmbo...
King, what? What, Warmbo?
It's a debate, Mr. Cody.
Right. Well, can you maybe debate without talking?
Can do, silly goat.
Oh, good. They communicate telepathically. Larry Elder is certainly a person. Is he, though? Larry seems less like a person and more like an AI amalgamation of every right-wing / libertarian talk radio personality depicted in pop culture. His proposals while running for governor include, but aren't limited to, getting rid of the federal minimum wage, eliminating welfare, and killing discrimination protections for pregnant women in the workplace. In fact, Larry seems to really not like women, having claimed that women have exaggerated sexism and domestic violence in this country. He's a real 90s sexist, mocking things like PMS and saying that women know less about politics than men. Add that to the openly endorsing pregnancy discrimination thing, and it's like, Okay, dude, we get it. You suck in a really boring way. What's next? You just gonna go around pointing guns at women? Oh, I guess he's way ahead of me there. Well, along with hating women, Larry also thinks racism is no big deal. Same, of course, with climate change and COVID. Again, just real basic conservative talking points, which is what you'd expect from a guy who started a radio talk show in the 90s and has contorted to the party ever since, most recently embracing the MAGA of it all. Although, to be fair, I guess, Larry was actually one of, if not the, first right-wingers to nurture Stephen Miller, giving the little smooth Nazi boy a podium when he was just 16 years old. So, Larry Elder just kinda sucks? In a really insidious but also uninteresting way. Like if the Zodiac Killer left Sudoku puzzles. He sucks so hard that it's thought that Larry helped Gavin Newsom win his recall election by being so unlikable that voters veered far away from his right-wing rhetoric. I don't know if you remember this, but people did not like Newsom. So it's pretty funny that Larry couldn't even leverage that. And now he's joining the GOP primary and I don't know, man. Seems unlikely. And just like all these other hilarious dips, he has to dance around the whole Trump issue. And gosh darn it, does Larry have two left feet.
Larry, I want you to answer a question, because I asked Mark Davis this in Dallas, and Sean Hannity won't answer it, give a straight answer. Everybody's giving it convoluted and...
Well, why don't you answer the question and instead of telling me how everybody else answered it? Maybe we could save some time. Okay.
You know, I'm only asking Republicans. So, did Donald
well, Hayes. Whenever you get around to answering the question, I'm happy to answer it.
Okay, Larry. I think he was about to ask it, so just give him a moment.
Why don't you just say, "Hey, Larry, I have a question for you," and I'll respond.
Hey, Larry, I got a question for you.
Okay.
Larry, I got a question for you.
Okay, Hayes, what is it? And I'll respond.
Did Donald Trump?
See how easy that was? Hey, see how easy that was? See how quick that was?
Yeah.
You didn't have to tell me what other people said. You didn't have to tell me that you only give it to Republicans.
Well,
you could have just said, "Hey, Larry, I got a question for you," and we could have gotten to the point.
Larry, he's clearly asking the question. Who's the one stopping us from getting to the point?
Oh man, I'm gonna love it, Larry.
I doubt that you're gonna love it, but we'll see.
F***ing Christ, Larry! Just shut your mouth for one moment, please! Sorry. Okay. One more try. Here we go.
Okay. Did Donald Trump lose the 2020 election?
Did he lose it? Yes.
Fair and square.
I wouldn't say fair and square, but he lost it.
Here we go. I knew it.
All right, Hayes. Now I got a question for you. Did Hillary lose the election in 2016?
Yes.
Fair and square?
Yes.
Okay. Hillary doesn't believe she lost the election fair and square. Do you agree with that, Hayes? Will you accept that?
You asked me the question.
I know. I'm asking you another question now. This is the third question now. It's a new question. Does Hillary believe she lost the election fair and square? You know Donald Trump does not. That's why you called. Does Hillary believe she lost the election fair and square in 2016?
From her comments, I don't think so.
Okay, then. All right, then we have two presidential candidates, neither of whom believe they lost the election fair and square. Here's my fifth question, fifth question, Hayes. Why hasn't Hillary's Facebook page been shut down the way Donald Trump's been since she's been promoting the big lie longer than Donald Trump?
Because she did not start an insurrection at the Capitol.
Oh, I see. So it's okay to have a big lie if you don't start an insurrection?
Come on, man. That's not the equivalent of that.
Why don't you answer my question, Hayes? You said, Hayes, wait a minute. Let's not talk over each other.
Yeah! Take that, Hayes, you random person that Larry Elder can barely maintain not even a debate, but a conversation with. You, Hayes. My goodness, that was embarrassing. But hey, now I hope he qualifies for the debates, because that will at least be a little fun. Let's move on before I die from boredom. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Absolutely terrifying. Oh my God, right? RFK Jr., man, where to begin? I swear, the GOP just keeps finding the biggest weirdos. Sorry, what? Oh, right. Sorry. And wait, we're sure we're not... Okay, well, it seems like he should just run as a Republican, because they're funding him and the free market solutions to climate change and all that. But okay, so I guess he doesn't count? Let's move on to, I don't know, something exciting. Tim Scott will settle for VP. I said exciting, you demon shits. Sorry, not your fault. Okay. Well, having two first names is kind of exciting, even if they are the two most boring first names that exist. Wait, okay. New angle. Okay. Tim Scott might not be exciting, but he is interesting. Interesting in that he might be walking the tightest of tightropes of all of these candidates when it comes to his devotion to the GOP. And he's not bad at it, but also not great at it. And a good example is how he talks about the January 6th insurrection attempt that he himself was present for.
Former President Trump has just announced that he has been told he is the target in an investigation of the January 6th attack on the Congress. As someone who was there that day, and let's set aside the legal case, what level of responsibility do you believe he bears for what happened?
And I will say, as a person who was targeted on that day, I'll never forget taking my jacket off, rolling my sleeves up, and finding a few pins to defend myself, presumably until I died. I hold the folks who broke into the Capitol with ill will in their hearts, destroying property, responsible for their actions. I don't hold the former president who didn't show up at the Capitol and threaten my life as responsible.
Even though former President Trump, or President Trump at the time, tweeted, "Be there, will be wild," there's no level of culpability there?
I'm not saying there's no level of culpability. The question I'm answering is the one that I think is relevant, which is that who do I hold responsible for the actions on that day? I can only hold responsible the very people who threatened my life, and the former president did not threaten my life.
Ow. Ow. Okay. All right, I'm just going to have to brain that for a second. So he holds the people who threatened his life to such an extent that he thought he was going to have to fight to the death. He holds them responsible, as in accountable or liable to be called on to answer for that event. But that doesn't mean that Trump isn't also culpable or meriting condemnation or blame, especially as wrong or harmful. So if he thinks Trump is responsible for January 6th and the attack on Tim Scott's life, his answer is no. But Trump is to blame, and I guess should be punished then, right? Because legally speaking, the word culpable is actually worse than responsible, because culpable implies a direct involvement. So Tim's effort to sidestep the question ironically ends up being a direct attack on Trump. I would also posit a correct direct attack. And in a lot of ways, Tim Scott's career has been an attempt to sidestep a lot of obvious problems while accidentally shining a light on them. He got his start in the olden days of 1995, simpler times where boys were on the side, and a young Timothy Scott became the first black Republican elected to any office in South Carolina since 1902. Later, in 2012, he would once again take a record by becoming the first black Republican senator from the South since the Reconstruction era, and the first black Republican senator in America since the 70s. And so, just by existing in his position, Tim Scott immediately pointed out a pretty messed up thing about his party. Although, to be effed and bead, it's not like the Democrats are any better. And to his credit, T. Scott didn't fully sidestep that position. For example, he very publicly supported the removal of the Confederate flag from the South Carolina State House, saying, quote, "It remains part of our state's rich and provocative history. But for so many, the flag signifies pain and division that has no home here, and that does not represent the present or the future of our great state. I do not believe that the vast majority of those who support the flag have hate in their hearts, but it is clear that this is the right step forward for our state." You see how good he did there, mostly? He stressed the whole heritage line while still speaking out against the flag. It's like he's a politician or some shit. But even when highlighting very clear examples of racism rooted in our government, as well as filling his memoir with personal stories of targeted racist threats, Tim Scott amazingly maintains, let's call it an optimistic view.
I would simply say that America is not a racist country, period. I don't apologize for that conclusion.
No worries, Tim. I don't need you to apologize for being wrong about a thing. My evidence being just, looking at your own career as the only black Republican senator, who only 5 years ago had to fight his own party not to confirm two openly racist judges. He succeeded there, thank deity, but not before saying that the GOP was, quote, "not doing a very good job of avoiding the obvious potholes on race in America." That's a fun way to put it. Gee, Tim, I wonder why they weren't avoiding the obvious potholes. It's almost as if they didn't care if they hit them, right? Hey, Tim, when you introduced that anti-lynching bill back in 2018, which party hit the brakes on it? Could it have been, perhaps, the GOP? Your party, Tim, who didn't like your anti-lynching bill because they thought it was too, quote, broad. Fun fact for Tim specifically, that bill would later be passed, but only after the Democrats took the majority. But Tim isn't a Democrat, nor does he agree with progressives about this whole defunding the police stuff.
The truth is that we are still negotiating on police reform. We hit a roadblock based on a couple of areas. One of the most important areas was, is it okay to limit funding to grants if local police don't meet a certain standard or don't qualify based on some parameters? I say no, they say yes. The whole defund the police conversation that's been going on. And what we've seen is that, unfortunately, a lot of the cities have literally tried defunding the police to see if it works. The answer is, doesn't work very well.
Doesn't work. He says no, but they say yes to it. Do we have a clip of Democrats embracing the defunding of police?
Our bill says that we will defund the departments if they don't ban chokeholds.
Oh, that's odd. That sure looked like Tim Scott back in 2020, flat out supporting the defunding of police while he was trying to pass a police reform bill. That bill was actually killed by Democrats because they didn't think it went far enough. But of course, both Tim and Democrats did a big ol' 180 on this once it got super cool to pretend like defunding the police was a bad thing that actually happened. But that's literally another video we did. Point is that Tim goes with the flow, even when the flow is horrifying. And he's very good at pretending a terrible thing doesn't exist.
Is conservatism ready to accept and support LGBT families as part of our animating commitment to families?
So I think it's a simpler question. I think you decide the family that you construct. I think our courts have settled that issue. And I don't know anyone that's having a conversation about who you love. At least I'm not. And I don't know any Republicans who are at all at this point, to be honest with you.
Oh, Tim. So when asked about the Republican opposition to LGBTQ people, Tim just says it doesn't exist, is briefly silent, and then shrugs. It's got real "my biggest fault is that I work too much" job interview vibes. It's also odd that he can't think of any Republicans who take issue with gay people, since he literally defended one for having those exact views, on The View no less, for which he was booed, for saying that kids were indoctrinated by Disney because of gay people wanting to love each other, which he claims is totally fine with his party, who don't like gay people wanting to love each other. He also used that View visit to continue to argue that America isn't a racist country despite, all the things I've already said just about Tim Scott's career. And so this is all to say, he's gonna make a good vice president, or at least token cabinet member for the clown house of Trump, or the slightly more Nazi clown house of DeSantis. After all, he's not alone in his idea that racism isn't systemic, and despite claiming to not like racists, he voted in line with Trump nearly 97% of the time while he was the president. He's said to be a good fundraiser and well-liked by the other candidates, and why wouldn't they like him? He stands out while simultaneously conforming to the will of his party. So, yeah, not gonna be the prez, but he could be a good V-prez to the racist guy. Either of them. Okay. Let's keep this fuck train going, but first, more ads. Oh, hell yeah, we love them! We love ads on the fuck train, which we are on. Choo-choo.
Boy, oh boy, summer travel sure can be a lot. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great to go to exotic locations or European cities enjoying meals and drinks and assuming the identities of wealthy, deceased socialites. But it can also be a lot of stress. You gotta plan it all out. Make fake passports, sleep in an unusual bed, bury stuff. And so why not try CBD gummies from Next Evo Naturals? They help with those stressful and sleepless situations. When I take them, sometimes I get so relaxed I completely forget which name I'm going by. Whoopsies. Look here, little lad. There's a lot of CBD products out there, but with Next Evo, you know what you're getting is good quality. They test their products to ensure their CBD is safe, effective, and exactly what's on the label. Not to mention, fast acting. It's important to be fast acting, you see, especially when you're on a yacht. And all your IDs spill out of your purse in front of an heiress. Thank goodness for international waters, am I right? So leave summer stress behind and upgrade your CBD. Go to nextevo.com/more news to get 25% off and a free bottle of premium pure CBD. $50 value, limit 1 use per customer. That's nextevo.com/more news.
Ah! Did you hear that? That's the sound of a cash register, or rather one from the 80s or 90s, which signifies a store completing a sale, which signifies the concept of commerce. Like, if you had a store in 1993, that would be a good sound to use. These days, we have stores on the internet, and if you have a store on the internet, you might perhaps want to check out Shopify and their point-of-sale system. It's a command center, not just for your online store, but in-person store. That's a store, but at a mall or in a building, a place where flesh exists, you see. Shopify actually unites your online and in-person sales all in one place, like a nexus between dream and reality. They'll even help you drive store traffic with tools built for advertising on the TikTok and the Instagram. And that's the only 2 social media sites that exist. You love commerce on the internet and in the flesh reality. Sign up for a $1 per month trial period at shopify.com/more news, all lowercase. Go to shopify.com/more news, lowercase, to take your retail business to the next level today. Shopify.com/more news. Commerce. It's when money is exchanged for various goods and services. Money being a thing we made up. For fun? I don't know. Hey now! Welcome back to the show about people and puppets and debate, but mainly puppets. It's the Warmbo Debate, I guess, is the premise, which is odd because I don't remember allowing this or even coming to the studio today. Hey, what are we even debating for anyway?
You.
Oh, so that's the worst answer you could have given. Thank you.
Don't be afraid, Hosey. My mouth's smooth like a dolphin's vagina.
Okay, yeah, I hate that. Yeah. Could have just said smooth like a dolphin. Hey, Warmbo. Original Warmbo. Good Warmbo? Jeez, God, is that where we're at now? Okay. Warmbo. How worried do I need to be right now?
Not worried at all, Mr. Cody. Mr. Cody is cool like cucumber.
Very relieved to hear that. Also, I kind of want to lay naked on a salad for some reason. Let's continue with the show. After all, we're surely coming upon the main event, the guy you're all waiting to hear me talk about. So let's pull the curtain.
You know, you want to join us on the campaign trail, you can do that. I often open up, I say, my name's Vivek. It rhymes with cake. It ain't about thee. It isn't about me. It is about thee. The United States is about liberty. So Fox and friends, join us on the trail. We'll have some fun. I'll see you out the trail.
Very nicely done, sir.
Oh, that's a shame. Vivek Ramaswamy, the worst timeline. Did he rhyme trail with trail? I think he did. Sick. Sick stuff. The noun version of sick, to be clear. Like a puddle of sick left by an elderly pet. You know how the best raps say that they're rhyming when they rhyme? I'm Slim Shady. It rhymes with imitating. Classic good rap move. Hey, Vivek, if your name rhymes with cake, you could have just said, my name is Vivek. I really like cake. Then we would know both that your name rhymes with cake and a fun little fact about you. Apparently you say that all the time while you're campaigning. Maybe workshop it a little bit more. Anyway, let's get back on track, all right? The important thing is that I read his rap verbatim to you. My name is Vivek. It rhymes with cake. It ain't about thee. It is about me. It is about thee. The United States is about liberty. So Fox and friends, join us on the trail. We'll have some fun. I'll see you out the trail. Pre-planned bit that he did on TV. You get it. He's a libertarian rapper from Harvard, folks. Seriously, that is an accurate description of Vivek. It rhymes with cake, Ramaswamy, who occasionally goes by the alter ego Devake and also wants to be our president, President Vivek. What's up with libertarian rapper politicians who suck? Also, I sure hate that stranger things have actually happened, so maybe this is just how things are now. And just from what little I've told you so far, he really seems like the worst person to corner you at a party. But don't worry, Vivek also has terrible opinions, which probably doesn't surprise anyone who's fully absorbed the whole libertarian rapper thing that I just cannot stop stressing is a real thing about this guy.
What I'm saying is that actually it's policies like that of Lyndon Johnson and Joe Biden that are actually holding black Americans back.
The war on poverty?
Yes, and in particular, his Great Society, where he actually created incentives in the family, where if you're a family, you could actually get more money by not having the father in the home. Guess what you get? You get what you pay for. And I think it's been really bad for the black community. I think it's really bad for all Americans. Black people secured their freedoms after the Civil War. It is a historical fact, Don. Just study it. Only after their Second Amendment rights were secured.
They were not secured their freedoms after the Civil War. That is not, you are discounting Reconstruction. You're discounting a whole host of things that happened after the Civil War when it comes to African Americans, including the whole reason that the Civil Rights Movement happened is because black people did not secure their freedoms after the Civil War, and that things turned around. People tried to change the freedoms that were supposed to happen.
And you know how they got
it?
They got their Second Amendment rights, and they actually got the NRA played a big role in that. But today, Don, the
NRA did not play a big role in that.
They trained black Americans how to use firearms.
That's a lie. That's not. The NRA did not play a big role in that.
This is just historical fact.
It's not historical fact.
The part that I
just
find...
because you say it's historical fact.
The part that I find insulting...
I think he might be on cocaine, too. Anyway, no, objectively speaking, the NRA and Second Amendment did not secure the freedoms of black people in this country. And I feel like I don't really need to fact check that one. Also, and this is just sort of off the cuff, but technically, the Second Amendment helped people try to continue denying the freedoms of black people in this country. They did a war about it. Anyway, pretty much everything that comes out of Vivek's mouth is a bit unhinged and factually wrong, but he talks so fast that he doesn't really give you time to register it most of the time. It probably comes as no shock that he's very, very rich thanks to investing in biotech and pharmaceutical companies, which I guess he has to pretend that he hates now because of COVID or something. Again, worst guy at the party. Some other very obviously bad ideas that Vivek has is to abolish the Department of Education and get rid of teachers' unions. Man, they all hate teachers. Raise the voting age to 25 unless you pass a civics test or serve in the military, and get rid of affirmative action. Which brings us to our very brief segment. Hey, Vivek! Hey, Vivek, raising the voting age, does this have anything to do with young people leaning more progressive? Hey Vivek, are you familiar with previous US laws requiring taking a test in order to vote? Hey Vivek, if somebody can't pass the civics test when they're 25 and then they turn 26, can they vote? Hey Vivek, if somebody's 45 and they decide to take the civics test for fun but fail the test, can they still vote? Hey Vivek, if so, why? Hey Vivek, do you think it's going to be popular to raise the voting age by 7 years? Hey Vivek, you want to raise the voting age, but you're just 3 years older than the lower limit to be president, and you want to be president? Hey Vivek, get fucked. It rhymes with cake. This has been Hey Vivek! Oh, also Vivek thinks that while climate change is real and recognizes that it's caused by fossil fuels, his solution is to burn more fossil fuels in order to cause economic growth that he thinks will pay to solve climate change? Am I getting that right? He claims that he isn't a climate denier, and then also says stuff like this.
Republicans dance around this issue a little bit too delicately. I say it expressly. We need to abandon climate religion in America. Yeah. That's the easiest step to unshackle our economy.
Vivek is in the midsection of that fun little Venn diagram of right-wing libertarians who aren't delusional enough to outright deny reality, but also can't reconcile that with their core beliefs. He knows that climate change is a problem, but loves capitalism and the free market too much to take the next logical step. He's also running in a party that is the only major political party on the planet to historically deny climate change is even happening. Hey Vivek, how do we have a climate religion in this country when half of us fucking morons don't even think it's real? You see this tension clearly when Vivek talks about wokeism, and more specifically, corporate wokeism, which he wrote a whole book on and is almost actually correct about. See, what Ramaswamy has spoken to is the fact that most companies very cynically support social justice causes as a way to earn good PR while distracting from the shitty things that they do. And he says their efforts are ineffective. I agree. We've done videos about that exact thing. But what Vivek also claims is that these cynical and ineffective attempts at wokeism are also destroying society.
That new disease, that new infection, is spreading across our country like wildfire. It is one that even the best of science is not going to cure. And that new disease is called woke culture. This is more like mutual prostitution, and it is working. And the net result is the rise of America's newest leviathan, the woke industrial complex. It is no longer just Wall Street. It is no longer just Silicon Valley. It is the entirety of corporate America as we know it.
Wokeness. A disease. Powerful. Taking over the world. And it's working. But also, it's not working.
We have a system of capitalism that is insulated, or at least historically has been, from partisan politics. First of all, that makes companies more successful. Bud Light's just one example among many. Megan, that's what the whole book is about. The Capitalist Punishment book that's out today, that is about why companies are more successful when they are not encumbered by these environmental and social agendas.
It's that thing where he wants to portray wokeism as being weak, but also demonize it as all-powerfully destructive. It boggles the mind, or is a common tactic, whatever. And probably the best example of this is a story out of Ramaswamy's campaign when he was asked to rap. Sorry, that's not right. When Vivek was out the trail, he was asked to clarify the meaning of anti-woke, and responded by saying, quote, "I've never used that word to actually describe myself." Literally, at the same time his staff was handing out stickers that said, "Stop wokeism, vote Vivek." It's all pretty standard contradictory stuff, and his anti-wokeness is what you would generally expect. He's of course against trans rights, and really just defines wokeness as people calling out bigotry and following climate science, which is what a lot of anti-wokeism boils down to. In one New Yorker interview, he spoke out against affirmative action and claimed that systemic racism was only a thing that happened in the past, and the only example he gave was the era of slavery. And yep, that's certainly the most obvious and unnuanced example. Good work, Vivek. Anywho, his evidence that systemic racism didn't exist anymore was because he knew a white conservative guy at Harvard that was considered uncool by his classmates, and argued that he would be deemed socially inferior to, quote, some athletic black kid who came and got a place on the basketball team. Not a specific black kid, mind you, just a hypothetical one. So, yeah, to recap that, racism was a problem, like back during slavery times, but it's not a problem anymore because Vivek once knew a white guy at Harvard that wasn't as cool as an imagined black person. It's an airtight argument. No air getting in or out of there. Meanwhile, Vivek's hate for corporate wokeness, a cynical capitalist cash grab, is uniquely mixed with a batshit reverence for capitalism itself.
And then when that merges with capitalism, which is what I've actually been the biggest critic of, what it does is we lose the sanctuary, the apolitical sanctuary in our economy that otherwise brings us together, whether we're black or white, even whether we're Democrat or Republican. That's one of the underappreciated reasons why capitalism has to stay apolitical.
That's right. Wokeness hurts the sanctuary of capitalism, which in his mind is totally apolitical. One of the things he cites in his just terrible book is that American-style capitalism has saved people in India because people there can deliver for Domino's Pizza and, quote, "My family tips him to show their appreciation." So I don't know, maybe it's bad to elect someone apparently born yesterday. And also very funny that he often claims climate activism is a religion while also talking about capitalism like it's a monastery. But nonetheless, he contends that the real problem in America is that young people have glommed onto wokeness instead of an unquestioning nationalism, which is why, as mentioned, he wants to move up the voting age unless you pass a civics test.
As a young person, I feel some responsibility. We are all hungry for a cause. We're hungry for purpose and meaning and identity. That's the vacuum at the heart of our soul. So wokeness or gender ideology or the climate cult, that'll fill the void. But what we need to do for the next generation, Charles, is fill that void of identity with the vision of American national identity that runs so deep that it dilutes the woke agenda to irrelevance.
It's actually a little chilling when you realize what he's saying, which is that he wants to make laws built to encourage blind nationalism instead of the celebration of diversity in this country. He has explicitly said that he doesn't think diversity is a strength, and while I don't think this guy is a Nazi or anything like that, he is very blindly falling for those same talking points, which is probably why he's a very popular guest on right-wing shows, and possibly is being boosted because he pulls votes away from DeSantis to favor Trump. But I don't know, all right? Maybe he knows exactly what he's doing. A bad example of him knowing what he's doing is maybe him saying that Juneteenth is a useless holiday 2 months after posting a video celebrating it. So, I don't know, he just seems like a real simple dupe and a super duper who has spent too much time online and just wants to sell his book. And therefore, it's not special since I could describe several candidates that way.
Cody! Cody, can you hear me?
Katy, where is this even coming from?
Cody, listen, do not trust Warmbo.
I never trust Warmbo.
Right, that's a good point. Hey, have you seen that new shark movie?
I should probably get back to the video. Talk later! Something's not right. I can see the endless. Nikki Haley, hilariously optimistic. Boy, I feel great! I think I just took a nap. I remember an intangible darkness, that's for sure. Speaking of, we should talk about South Carolina's Nikki Haley, who, much like everyone on this list, probably isn't going to be the president of the United States. Nikki is very similar to Tim Scott, in that they were colleagues from the same state and are clearly vice president material. And they've got 2 first names! What's more, they both have the distinction of almost believing in things while also falling in line with the ghoulishness of their own party. She was also several firsts in her state, such as the first woman and minority governor. She did this by riding the Tea Party wave, one of many right-wing fads she would ultimately contort to appease. While in office, she dealt with both police brutality and white supremacist violence, specifically the execution of Walter Scott while he was fleeing a police officer, and the Dylann Roof mass shootings of 9 black churchgoers. She's actually the one who pulled the Confederate flag from her state's capital, which Tim Scott supported her on. There was a time where she really vaguely seemed focused on actual governing. Back in 2021, she called out the culture war obsession as a distraction for America, and has even admitted that her own party has been terrible at winning over voters.
We've lost the popular vote in the last 7 out of 8 presidential elections. Our cause is right, but we have failed to win the confidence of a majority of Americans. That ends now. If you're tired of losing, put your trust in a new generation. And if you want to win, not just as a party, but as a country, then stand with me.
Ooh, I love it when they almost figure it out. She realizes that the GOP is unpopular and that the culture war is a shallow attempt at winning voters, but she insists that her party still has good ideas. So, what are those ideas? Tell us, Nikki.
Yet 90% of American kids are still under critical race theory, where if a little girl goes into kindergarten, if she's white, you're telling her she's bad. If she's brown or black, you're telling her she's never going to be good enough and she's always going to be a victim. You've got biological boys playing in girls' sports. It is the women's issue of our time. Where is everybody? Y'all know about Dylan Mulvaney? Bud Light? Make no mistake, that is a guy dressed up like a girl making fun of women.
Oh, okay, so that is Nikki, our anti-culture war candidate, who is sick of the GOP losing all the time. Now, in 2023, and waging, what do I call it? When a person, battles over our culture. There's a word for it, but I guess, according to her, trans people in sports are the biggest women's issue of our time. It makes sense. Can't think of any other modern thing happening that might affect women. Hey, totally unrelated segue. How does she feel about abortion? Well, Nikki does not think that women should be executed for having one, so I guess she's a moderate according to today's definition. It's one more tightrope that she's really trying to walk with her own party, who perhaps doesn't actually have good or popular ideas, and for that reason keeps defaulting to yelling at a beer company. Again, real Tim Scott vibes, in that she longs for her party to be taken seriously, but ultimately just falls into the Trumpy conga line in order to survive politically. Don't get me wrong, she's a ghoul. You just heard what she said about trans people, but she's got the Smeagol energy where you can see a final glint of humanity in the far reaches of her eyes. Still a ghoul, though. Her name is Nikki. It rhymes with icky. Like, for example, as governor, she signed a law allowing police to stop anyone they suspect is in the country illegally, basically allowing racial profiling, but also signed a bill that redistributed the education budget to boost higher poverty districts. That is objectively a terrible thing right next to a very good thing. It's kind of disorienting to navigate, like a fun house, or maybe the hotel from The Shining. Nikki Haley's politics are like the Overlook Hotel, labyrinthine and ultimately more sinister than not, with a bunch of old dead white guys pulling the strings. And once again, like Tim Scott, her views on racism seem to prove themselves wrong in real time as she is explaining them.
America is not a racist country. This is personal for me. I am the proud daughter of Indian immigrants. They came to America and settled in a small southern town. My father wore a turban. My mother wore a sari. I was a brown girl in a black and white world. We faced discrimination and hardship, but my parents never gave in to grievance and hate. The American people know we can do better. And of course we value and respect every black life. The black cops who've been shot in the line of duty, they matter. The black small business owners who've watched their life's work go up in flames, they matter. The black kids who've been gunned down on the playground, their lives matter too.
You see, America isn't a racist country. Just ask her parents who were discriminated against, or the young black kids who were shot by cops on the playground. Checkmate. Me? It's wild how all of these weirdos fail to navigate racism. They have to insist that racism isn't systemic or present at all because otherwise they admit that things like CRT and wokeness might be grounded in something real. But they also can't deny objective reality, and so they end up playing this weird semantic game with zero winners. Or rather, one winner, Donald Trump, who tosses word salad better than anyone else and is the ultimate haunted hotel in which Nikki has to navigate. Like a lot of these sad sacks, she criticized Trump back in 2016, only to fall in line when he won. She kept her head down, briefly as Trump's ambassador to the UN, by the way, for a few years until the 2020 election, when Nikki assured us that Trump was a reasonable man, saying that if he lost his Texas lawsuit to contest the election results, he would, quote, go on his way. Do we have a picture of Trump going on his way after losing the election? Oh yeah, there they are. Look at all the pictures of Trump going on his way. I don't know, it seems like if you want to be the president, you should have to display some correct judgment of character, and there's no lower bar than Trump. And this is ultimately how Haley went from a complicated Republican who had a few moderate ideas all the way to just another beclown face in a begooled crowd. Another hitchhiking ghost trying to jump on that Trump wagon. She has at least recognized that Joe Biden won, but even backtracked in blaming Trump for the January 6th riots, because she's a coward and just wants power, and will keep her head down and hope for the scraps that fly off of the demolition derby between Trump and DeSantis. And that, of course, brings us to the main event, the non-Trump candidate you have been waiting to learn about. So let's fucking do it! Sound the horn! Mike Pence! LOL. Wait, who? Was he the star of that Transporter show? No, that's Chris Vance. Can somebody please play me a clip to jog my memory?
Of indicting a former president of the United States sends a terrible message to the world. I hope the DOJ thinks better of it and resolves these issues without an indictment.
Sir, I just want to clarify. What you're saying is that if they believe he committed a crime, they should not go forward with an indictment? You just talked before about committing to the rule of law.
Let me be clear that no one's above the law.
Okay.
But with regard to the unique circumstances here, look,
Oh, Mike Pence! I remember now. He's that former conservative talk radio guy who was mad at Mulan and who became a sleazy governor and fucked up Indiana's healthcare system, causing a lot of people to die before personally going broke and then getting offered a long-shot vice presidential run by a reality show grifter who then amazingly won the election, but not the popular vote, of course, and then spent 4 years quietly standing in the background before getting blamed when the president lost his second election, blamed by the president, to be clear, who threw him so hard under the bus that his supporters wanted to hang him. They wanted to hang you, Mike, and you're running for president of this country? Look, I don't think I need to spend a lot of time talking about this Q-tip racist. I just glossed over some extremely horrible things from his past, such as his misuse of campaign funds, his inability to form a halfway decent healthcare policy, and indifference toward an HIV outbreak in his own state, to the point that he slashed funding toward health programs during a health crisis. He signed one of the then strictest anti-abortion laws in the country. And of course, he sure doesn't like the gays. Remember when he went to an NFL game just to walk out of it in disgust of a player kneeling for racial equality and more police accountability? That's something a racist does, don't you know? But Mike is also, more than anything, a hilarious and unlikable coward.
So this is a yes or no question. Is Advance America right when they say a florist in Indiana can now refuse to serve a gay couple without fear of punishment?
Well, let me explain to you. The purpose of this bill is to empower, and has been for more than 20 years, George. This is not speculative.
Yes or no? If a florist in Indiana refuses to serve a gay couple at their wedding, is that legal now in Indiana?
George, this is where this debate has gone with misinformation and frankly,
it's just a question. It said it would protect a Christian florist who against any kind of punishment. Is that true or not?
George, look, the issue here is, you know...
Does that mean that Christians who want to refuse service, or people of any other faith who want to refuse service to gays and lesbians, that it's now legal in the state of Indiana? That's a simple yes or no question.
George, the question here is...
Final yes or no question, Governor. Do you think it should be legal in the state of Indiana to discriminate against gays or lesbians?
George...
It's a yes or no question.
Come on, Hoosiers don't believe in discrimination.
Oh my God, Mike, just say you don't like gay people so we can move on. Look, again, you know who this guy is. Heck, chances are some of you want him hanged. But I figure we could remind you that he's like a 1995 bigot. But with any hope, he will merely serve as a rodeo clown for the next primary. A real Bloomberg type that will briefly unite his party in how amazingly flaccid he is as a candidate. Really failed there, Mike. Really failed at existing. Hey, remember when Mike Pence was put in charge of our COVID response? How did that go? Do you remember? Do you remember how that went? Anyway, he wants to be our president.
My family has lived the American dream. I had the great honor to serve in Congress, as governor, and as your vice president. And I'll always be proud of the progress we made together for a stronger, more prosperous America.
Absolutely incredible. My goodness, Mike. They tried to hang you after the pandemic and all the riots and fire. Remember, Mike? Does he not remember? You're pretty much the key witness in the trial for fraud against your former boss. That's how bad your last time in office went. It's like if somebody tried to quietly return to a party after shitting in the punch bowl 5 minutes earlier. The pure audacity of pretending like he's a viable candidate for president is honestly admirable if he wasn't such a hateful scarecrow of a man. And while Pence has finally begun to speak out against Trump, it was only when he decided that it would best interest him. And by best interest him, I mainly mean that he was backed into a corner where he'd either have to vanish entirely or do something to make himself visible.
I think yesterday's indictment will stand either on its own merits or it will fall. I can't really speak to the legal arguments behind it, but I think the American people deserve to know that on that day, President asked me to choose between him and the Constitution, and I chose the Constitution.
Yeah, I'm sure you were real brave that day, Mike. Maybe they'll make a whole Captain Phillips about it. You know, once you definitely become the President of the United States. Because you're so likable and brave. Or maybe just walk away. You survived. Go write a memoir about how they wanted you hanged and live on a compound somewhere. And you know what? I don't want to talk about you anymore. Greener pastures, I say. Ron DeSantis! Less likable than treason. Ah, right. More like Klan Hood white pastures. Or, I don't know, whatever color the Everglades are now. Deep brown. Well, I guess we can go for another 40 minutes. Okay, listen, looksin, all right? I can't give you all the rock-hard DeSantis action you probably crave. That's its own steamy video. But you might have noticed a pattern in all the candidates I've already listed, and it's that they all fall on a spectrum of how hard they choose to push the culture war anti-wokeness agenda, as well as Trumpism, while also trying to sound like not a complete fucking freak. And what makes DeSantis special, besides his profound unlikability, is that he's the one guy going all in on the anti-woke crusade. He's doing other things too, mind you, spinning many turd plates, as they say at the butt circus. For example, he's managed to make headlines for his cruel anti-gay laws while also doing a very bad job at governing Florida, specifically pursuing personal goals and ideology at the literal expense of the taxpayers. To start, inflation in Florida has not been good. Some would call it bad. In fact, it's one of the worst states for inflation right now, and economists will tell you that tax cuts tend to make inflation worse. Except that's exactly what Ron has been doing. It's one of the ways he tried to win over voters, and he wants to keep doing it, because tax cuts are a really popular short-term solution that will f*** everyone over later. It also helps that he's specifically giving these cuts to a lot of campaign donors, and even let a NASCAR lobbyist do a quick pass on the bill. Weird, Ron. I thought you didn't like corporate welfare and overreach, but I guess that's only when it's a gay company or whatever. And that's pretty much how Ron makes every decision. He takes his personal grievances and greed and disregards everything else, including logic, even if it means dragging his state down with him. For example, he refuses to participate in Obamacare, and as a result, Florida has the 4th highest uninsured rate in the country. Way to own the libs, though! He's of course famously cruel toward immigrants, having kidnapped and trafficked a bunch of them, despite them not actually being undocumented at the time. While this perhaps got him some points on Twitter, some X points, while that may be, about a quarter of Florida's workforce is immigrants. So it's weird to alienate them like that. Similarly, he signed an immigration bill that would fine businesses for having an undocumented worker, which will likely bring specific industries to a halt. That whole kidnapping thing created a bunch of lawsuits that these citizens have to pay for. DeSantis loves owning the libs at the cost of taxpayers, along with his costly legal battle with Disney that resulted in the loss of 2,000 potential jobs. His so-called Don't Say Gay bill, abortion bans, and banning of African American studies have all resulted in lawsuits that the state is paying for. And you might notice that none of those pursuits help the state of Florida in any meaningful way. And as I pointed out, in some ways, hurt it. It's just all culture war. A small government Republican using the entire state government to please internet trolls. He's just a weird online freak, and he's trying to make Florida the official state for his freakdom, and apparently turn the entire nation into a version of that freaked up state via a slogan that just reappropriates his opponent's slogan. We don't have to get too much into it here, but this is all to say that Ron is running Florida like a Gamergate chat room. He seems to have no serious ideas for governing and has spiraled the economy in favor of waging battles based completely around his personal dislikes and bigotry.
So we're going to be launching an inquiry about Bud Light and InBev, and it could be something that leads to a derivative lawsuit filed on behalf of the shareholders of the Florida pension fund, because at the end of the day, there's got to be penalties for when you put business aside to focus on your social agenda at the expense of hardworking people.
Are you looking at Disney too? I don't know if you saw the show last night, Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Disney's firing 6 of the dwarves. They think being a dwarf isn't inclusive enough, Governor.
Well, I'll tell you what, we did the battle with Disney last year over parents' rights and over the sexualization of minors. We took a very strong stand. I've been criticized for that by a lot of Republicans even. At the end of the day, this is just non-negotiable when you're starting to talk about our kids.
Yes, Mr. DeSantis, please make some kind of law saying that Disney can't replace their dwarf characters. Do they even hear themselves? It's just incredibly unserious, and it's kind of jaw-dropping when it's being done by a dude making laws. By the way, his new Bud Light lawsuit is probably going to be a very long and costly battle for the taxpayers. But you gotta fight those important battles. In this case, the fact that Bud Light's profit loss hurt Florida's pension fund, which I guess he wants to investigate to see whose fault that is. Hey, I have a clue. Maybe it's the fault of the people who started a giant boycott campaign because the company was briefly nice to a trans person once. And so the pension thing is another case of DeSantis ruining his state because of a weird wokeness obsession. But this isn't about DeSantis, the terrible governor. This is about DeSantis, the terrible presidential candidate. One that he announced historically.
Now it's quiet.
His commitment to freedom and his willingness to put his money where his mouth is, upset the narrative control imposed on us by our government, elite institutions, and corporate media.
Sorry, I read it wrong. He announced it horrendously on Twitter, which, not sure if you know this, seems to be bad now and called something stupid. Anyway, it was very embarrassing for both Twitter and Ron, who tried to play the event up as huge and internet breaking. And I guess he was right that it broke. But alas, at its maximum, only about 300,000 people watched it live. A smarter person would have taken this as a sign that perhaps nobody wants him to be the president. Or perhaps the fact that he's been consistently tanking in the polls. He seems to be taking this out on his staffers, when perhaps the problem is the guy that they're trying to sell? Because here's some news. Besides being a racist bigot who has monstrous ideas, Ron DeSantis is just really unlikable. Naturally so. Like, he's really naturally good at being unlikable. Burn it off! Oh, Ron is, and always has been, an unlikable little freak, and we unfortunately don't have time to show you all of the clips out there of him Ted Cruzing about. Okay, one more.
Today, your poll numbers behind President Trump have been pretty substantially behind. And you
Not here.
You know, a real fucked up guy. Just look at that. Look at that fucked up guy. Yeah, his name is DeSantis. It rhymes with he can't just be fucking normal. And yes, he was an unlikable little freak when he taught high school and students reported him saying weird shit about the Civil War. And when he partied with the senior students. Yeah, he was that teacher. You know, the groomer type. He was an unlikable little freak when he worked at Guantanamo Bay and advised them on how to force-feed detainees. And he was an unlikable little freak when he was barely elected to be governor in 2019, in part thanks to Trump, and then built his entire personality around being an unlikable little freak who dictates policy based on right-wing internet trolls. Specifically, this internet troll. And I don't know, do you want government policy based on a rando's anti-gay Twitter account? Is he gonna make a law to bring back the Snyderverse? Like, come the fuck on. I know the bar has been lowered recently, but don't people want a leader who talks about the economy and jobs and the border, and not whether or not the next Disney princess is white? Even for the right wing, that is Bush League shit. Culture war is the piss garnish on the shit meal that is Republican values, but Ron has made it the main course. And so I think that's perhaps, at least partially, why nobody likes him and doesn't want him to be the president. He's also just generally running his campaign like a coward. He is avoiding Trump at all costs and doesn't talk to reporters or even voters. His main pitch is that the GOP is losing too much, and he uses that pitch to sweatily pivot from any questions about Trump.
Do you acknowledge that Trump lost and there wasn't all this fraud that he talks about?
Well, I look at the last however many election cycles. 2018, we lost the House. We lost the Senate. 2020, Biden becomes president. We lost the Senate in 2020. Biden becomes president and has done a huge amount of damage. Very unpopular in 2022. And we were supposed to have this big red wave. And other than like Florida and Iowa, I didn't see a red wave across this country. And so I think the party has developed a culture of losing. I think that there's not accountability.
Hey now! He didn't answer that question, did he? He was asked to acknowledge that Trump lost the election, and he took that as an opportunity to say, well, in a way, we're all losers. Which, fair point. And to be fairer, point-wise, I guess, DeSantis recently gave the meekest of admissions that there wasn't any election fraud. And it appears as though that's as brave as he's gonna get. So, yeah, he's unlikable, ghoulish, and doesn't offer anyone solutions. I mean, unless you count Nazis, who fucking love him. Gee, why would Nazis love the guy who's trying to ban humans via laws and has a campaign aide that shared this on Twitter? You don't wanna hurt me. Let's see how deep the bullet lies. Oh, neat. It's a fucking neo-Nazi symbol. Also, Azov battalion symbol, apparently. But hey, to keep being fair, he fired that aide. No need to think about it anymore or wonder why so many supporters and people working for him are literally Nazis. So, yeah, let's not elect the new Nazi guy. We're not even done with the other Nazi guy. And we probably won't elect this guy. Like I said, he's a deeply unlikable freak who simply doesn't have the juice. And it's likely that once Florida Man actually steps up on the national stage, America will reject him. But you know, America does have trouble with this sort of stuff. Well, we shouldn't call it that. And so, where does this leave us? It's kind of a pickle, because as I already noted, absolutely nobody on this list is polling anywhere close to Trump. DeSantis is the closest, and he's a powerfully unpleasant Nazi guy. Most people have agreed that Trump is the most likely candidate to take on Biden, but it's unclear if Trump can even run, what with the whole conspiracy to defraud the entire United States thing. I don't know, maybe Trump will pull through and recapture the hearts and minds of the nation by demonizing Mexicans again or something. Like, does he still want to build the wall? Should somebody ask him about that? But I can't help thinking about the long ago tweet made by the ghost of a plantation gentleman that said, if we nominate Trump, we will get destroyed, and we will deserve it. And I think this is what we're seeing finally take effect. They made this terrible deal with the sleazy devil, and it is now time to collect. Trump has broken the party to the point that a major candidate talking point is whether or not they are going to pardon the crime president, who is still polling way better than all of them. He is being investigated for fraud against the American people. That's a lot of you. And he's also their best chance. This ancient and bumbling con man that's now latched to the Republican Party like a parasite. The end result of decades of dog whistling, finally calling the dog. And while it's a real bummer for democracy, don't get me wrong, it's at least a little fun to watch the GOP squirm. I can't imagine what it must be like to look at these freaks and know that you have to pick one of them to represent your party. What an absolute nightmare to have it come down to the criminal racist or the unlikable and also criminal racist. I guess, you know, they made their choice and picked Trump, the slightly less terrible option to them. It's like choosing between a room full of spiders or a room full of slightly bigger spiders, or picking between, I don't know. Smuggles! Right, thank you. It's like choosing between Warmbo and a slightly more terrifying Warmbo. Thank you for that metaphor, Warmbo. That is your name, right? I can smell you! Awesome. Wait, so who won the debate?
We don't think in terms of winners or losers, Mr. Cody. Us Warmbos aren't limited by your binary views of morality, silly goats.
I'll dig under your skin, Hosey. Make you feel high as a kite. That sounds fair. Weird. I feel like I should be terrified, but I mainly just feel this dull warmness. Like I'm drowning in a summer river, but don't care to thrash about.
That's normal. This is all very normal.
This is all very, very normal. Cool. Now who wants me to nibble on them?
Be gone, felt demon!
What just happened?
That Warmbo was gonna steal your social security number from me.
Oh, snap, really? Well, thanks for... Wait, are you in a movie theater?
Yeah, man, I'm seeing Meg 2, The Trench. It's the shark movie I was asking about. I was gonna see if you wanted to go. but I didn't.
Oh, you've never invited me to anything. Okay, yeah, I think I saw a trailer for that. It's like with Jason Statham.
I think it's Strat-Hat.
Hey, you keep it down. I'm trying to watch the shot.
You're thinking of David Strathairn.
I'll Google it. Hold on.
Get off your fucking phone. Just a little bit.
Oh, did you want to get crucifixed, bro? In front of your date? No, I didn't think so.
Damn it! We forgot about Doug Burgum.
Who's Doug?
I don't know, some guy who wants to be in charge of everybody. You know this was our 200th episode, right?
Really? Oh, hold on. Let me get a selfie to remember it.
Don't take a I feel like we should have done something special for it.
I mean, we did just kill someone.
Yeah, that's true.
Felt good, didn't it? That power of taking a life. The rush. It's addicting.
Yeah, wait, what?
Never mind. Don't worry about it.
Are we gonna... Was that illegal to kill him? Does he count? Well, let's just keep this between us, just in case. Happy 200th episode, folks.
Yes, happy 200th episode. Keep your fucking mouths shut. All of you keep your fucking mouths shut. Otherwise, Cody Johnston will find you and he'll kill you. Just like he killed all the others.
Okay, hanging up. Am I going to jail? Hello, everybody! Thank you so much for watching. Be sure to like and subscribe the video and to the channel. Thank you so much for your support over these many years. This is our 200th episode. Can you believe it? Thank you for watching all of them, I assume. And it's time. I'm doing it. It's happening. We're done. Oh my God, it's gone. It's gone now. You don't have to see it ever again. Be sure to check out our patreon.com/somemore-news. I said that perfectly. We've got merch at a merch store with this guy on it and this guy not on it. And we've also got a podcast called Even More News, and you can check out this show as a podcast called Some More News. And I think that's everything. This is left. Oh well.